Yeah, hi everyone, Jason here, Robot Lawnmowers Australia. Welcome to the second part of this video where we're going to set up and run the Momotion Luba Mini. This particular machine is actually the 1500 square metre model, but you can get this in a 1500 or an 800 square metre model, and we might run through some text, some specs and things at the end of this video. So this is the second video of a little three-part series where we've already done the one for the Yuka Mini, same video as this one, and then there's a third video after this where we're going to compare the two and compare the quality of each of the cuts and how they perform on slopes and all that sort of stuff, and just do a very quick comparison video at the end. So let's get into it. Let's set up the Luba Mini. I'm going to start from the start, so we're going to start a setup video right from the start. I'm going to try and make it as quick as possible because there's plenty of videos on how to set these things up. But we'll do a quick video, set it all up and get it running, and let's get into it. Okay, so Luba Mini. So like I said before, this is the 1500 square metre model. We're going to get into mapping this unit and getting it connected to the app. Now, I'm not going to run through all of the setup at the start there. Please just go back and watch the Yuka Mini video that I just finished taking just now, where we've gone through getting everything connected to the antenna and the Wi-Fi and everything else. So this machine's actually already connected. It's just, actually, no, where is it? Let me just see here. It may or may not be. I need to find Luba Mini. I have so many robots in my, there he is there. So if I click on this one here, he's already connected. Like I said, if you're going to look at the actual run, how to set up and get the connections done in the first place, please just watch the Yuka Mini one. So, but this is connected to the same RTK antenna. So we've got the one white RTK antenna here, which is for the minis. That antenna can be used for both the Yuka Mini and the Luba Mini, and you can have multiple units connected up to the same antenna if that's what you want or need. So let's get into getting this guy mapped out. So I'm going to actually delete what I did yesterday. So we're going to go into maps. We're going to turn this to the side here. We're going to edit, and we're going to just delete everything that we've got in there. So delete that, and we're going to delete that. And to start mapping, all we're going to do is create map. We're going to map an area. We're going to say, yep, we've got that, no problems at all. And as soon as I start to move, because it's on the charging station, I try and drive it forward. It gives you this little error here, or this message that says, do you want it to leave it automatically, or do you want to do manual operation? I generally choose manual operation and then just drive it forward off the charger. Okay, if you press the other one, it just, what it does is it automatically just leaves the charger by itself. Okay, so let's get some mapping. Start play here. Robot has reached its destination, and we're going to do manual mapping. Again, if you want to look at auto mapping, look at the Yuka video. It does work. It's just it leaves a lot of uncut grass on the edges at this point in time. So I always go manual mapping, and start mapping a task area, and away we go. So same as the other Momotion models, the control you have over mapping these guys and with the phone control really is absolutely fantastic now. It's, you can go as fast or as slow as you pretty well like as you're mapping, and it's just the increments and how you actually steer and turn really is, it's really fantastic. It's just really so easy to control. So I typically run my mapping around about 5 centimetres from the edge, sometimes a little bit closer. Obviously the manuals sort of say you should stay 10 to 15 centimetres away from the edge, but in relatively open areas you really can map quite close, and they're accurate. They really are accurate machines.
Okay, once we get to the end, we hit save, and there's our first area. Create area. We're going to do another area, and we're just going to zip out onto the other area here. Start about there. Manual mapping.
Start mapping a task area.
And away we go again. Yeah, we'll talk about this a bit later, but one of the joys of having an all-wheel drive machine is being able to step over the edges of grassed edges that are actually that have got 5 centimetre step-ups or so. You really can get away with quite a lot when you've got all-wheel drive. Save.
Task area mapping completed.
Okay, we go do our third area. Okay, start again.
Start mapping a task area.
Okay, save that one.
Task area mapping completed.
And then we're going to go and create channels. I usually put my first channel just here. Start
mapping a channel.
Start mapping a channel. Run that across there. And we'll save that one.
Channel mapping completed.
And then we go. Oh, why is it going? Oh, yeah, start.
Start mapping a channel.
No, I don't want to do that.
Channel mapping completed.
Okay, so it leaves you in channel mapping now, so you can just do multiple channels one after the other. That's actually quite handy. I was not aware of that. We'll start our next one here.
Start mapping a channel.
That's handy. I did not know that until just this moment. Let's just have a look, see what's actually here. So it's creating another channel, that's okay. Okay, save that.
Channel mapping completed.
Okay, so that is our 3 maps done. I don't know how many minutes that took, guys, but it wasn't many. So 3 maps done, everything's in play. Now we're going to hit the play button and we're going to do the same thing we did with the Yucca Mini video. Switch between portrait mode, yes. I'm going to map all areas, but I'm going to go area 3 first. So 3, 2, 1. So if you select, the order in which you select them in is the order it'll actually mow in. So now on the screen you can see that it's going to mow the long narrow area first. We're going to press confirm and then we're going to go into the settings. Now this is where we looked at last section. No, just before we go back to that. So it says it's going to take a total of 91 minutes. Now Yucca Mini said it was going to take about 110 minutes. So straight off the bat with default settings, that the Luba Mini is around about 10 to 15% faster than the Yucca. Just try and get myself out of the wind here, guys. Okay. So I'm going to go into default settings and look at what we can actually change. So we can change the cutting height and the travel speed and the angle is the first 3 that we can look at. So the cutting height, which I didn't actually mention even with the Yucca Mini, but they both go down to 20 millimeters, but we don't want to go 20 millimeters. I actually want to go 30 millimeters, which is 5 mil lower than we cut with the Yucca Mini. And we'll see exactly see if it's actually, you know what? I'm going to change my mind there, guys. I'm going to mow at the same height, 35 millimeters, because I think the Luba Mini is significantly heavier than the Yucca, and it will probably press down into the grass a bit more. So we'll see that first, and then I can change it as we go along. The travel speed, 0.3 meters per second. Now we can take that right up to 0.6. Now if I do that, it probably won't mow that great, but we can. Now if I go back and look at the self-calculated time, it's now dropped that time down to 57 minutes. So you can really speed things up if need be. We're going to just go one step slower and go at 0.5, because I find that at 0.5 they go quite okay. The cutting path is optimal at the moment. Last time we did random, but this is exactly the same. So optimal just means it's going to pick the best angle to mow it as fast as possible. Customize means you're going to be able to change the angle relative to true north. You can see in the top right hand corner of the green area there. Now there's a compass, so you need to sort of get yourself in a position where you can face north, and then you can set that angle to the way you want it to whatever you want it to be. And then random, it basically will change its angle as it goes along. So if I leave it as random path as it is now, and then go back and see what it self-calculates to, it's gone back up to 83 minutes, but we also changed the travel speed as well. So what we might do is for this one, we actually might go optimum, because I'd like to see it mow as fast as possible. Let's see what it takes it back to 67 minutes. Okay, so 67 minutes is its projected time. Now down the bottom there, you can also see more. So we can go into more settings. So we can set the zigzag or checkerboard. So zigzag there, you'll see this. So I'll say the same thing I did in the Yucca Mini video, is that we highly recommend you only do zigzag, which means it's just going to do one pass. It's going to go up and down this way, or whichever way angle you've got to go. It's going to do one pass, finish, and then go back to the charging station or go on to the next area. If you set it to checkerboard like this, then every time it goes out into that area, it's going to do two directions. It's going to go that way and that way. And the time it takes to do that is a lot. So, or twice as long, obviously. So what we highly recommend you do is only do one zigzag pattern. And then if you want to cut checkerboard, that's fine. But you cut zigzag one direction, and then the next day you cut zigzag in the other direction. That will give you the same checkerboard effect, but you're going to have a lot more flexibility in how you actually map and how long it actually takes to mow the area. So we're going to keep that at zigzag. Perimeter mowing on or off. So that's, again, you don't get a choice to see how many perimeter laps it does, but when it's on, it'll do 3 laps around the outside to try and make sure it cuts as close to the edge and brings that cut in about 1/2 metre-ish for the zigzag cuts to actually meet up with it. So we'll leave that enabled for now. Then we've got obstacle avoidance mode. Again, exactly the same as the Yuka Mini. If it's in the off position like that, then the robot will see what's in front of it, or it'll just slow down and it will bump into it very slowly and then just reverse off and go around it. If you put it in standard mode like that, then it'll see the obstacle. What does it actually say here? It says it will proactively avoid the obstacle to prevent collisions, which reducing damage and improves efficiency. Yeah, I'm not sure about the efficiency bit, but anyway. Basically what it means is it'll see the obstacle and it will try to avoid it, but it'll go relatively close to the obstacle. It won't avoid it by much, which means it can possibly still hit it, but it just won't hit it as much. And then sensitive means it's going to avoid the obstacle significantly. It'll see it, it'll reverse a bit, it'll go right around the obstacle and then continue on. So it'll try and avoid it as much as it possibly can. I typically sit it with off. Now the reason for that is that if it's seeing things like any sticks and leaves and that, it generally leaves things uncut. It really comes down to what objects you have that may or may not be in its way. Now, if you've got hard objects that it's in its way, well then I'd prefer the robot to actually bump up against them gently and then move on. If the object is soft, like a jumper or a shirt or something on the ground, well then you certainly don't want the robot to be slowly bumping into it, because it'll just get caught up in the robot and stop the robot from working. So it really comes down to what your obstacles are on your lawn and what you want to set in this setting. I prefer it off. Also prefer the crows to not make so much noise, but hey, we don't get everything, do we? Where are we up to here? No-go zone. So we click on the no-go zone. So in a no-go zone area, in a spot where you want the robot not to go, and we haven't mapped that in this particular video, but go back and have a look at the Yuka video, Yuka Mini, and it'll show you about mapping no-go zones. We actually, in the Yuka Mini one, we mapped one around this tree just here, so you could see what a no-go zone is. This setting that's on the screen right now is the border cuts of that no-go zone. So if you have that turned on, it'll go up to the no-go zone like that tree, and it'll do 3 laps around the tree to cut relatively close to the tree, and then be able to join that cut in with the zigzag cutting. And if you turn it off, it doesn't do it. Now, contrary to a lot of people's belief that if it is turned off, the zigzag cutting does not go any closer to the tree than what it would have in the first place. So the zigzag, turning the no-go zone border cuts off, does not change the zigzag mowing at all. So in this particular case, we don't have any no-go zones, so it doesn't really matter whether that's on or off, because there are none. And then the bottom one is progress start. Now, progress start, like I mentioned in the Yuka Mini video, is that you can obviously start the robot at any progression you like of what you've set up. So we'll just go back into, if we go back into here, and it shows you what we're actually, oh, what happened then? Oh, didn't know you could do that. You can actually turn them off in the screen there at any time. Okay, so you can see that in the basically all those lines, and they're the dark green lines, is the zigzag cut it's going to take, and the white lines is actually the border cuts that it's going to cut. Now, if I go back into those settings, go into more settings, go into progress, and I start that at 46%, and then go back, you'll see now it's actually starting. So it's actually finished all of area 1. There's no lines in area 1 anymore. And we go into area 2, and it looks like it's just starting. Oh no, there we go. So there's the pause point just there. So it shows you that that's where it's going to start mowing if we set it at 46%. Obviously we don't want to do that for this particular case. We want to go back to 0. We want it to start from the start, but there are plenty of scenarios where you want it to start halfway through. Okay, so that is that. I will hit the go button on this. Actually, we'll send it back to the charge station first. Actually, no, I can't. I just got to hit. I can only hit no. The battery's 83% charged at the moment, so we'll see what it's like after this, and we'll go on and do some other testing after that. So let's just hit the start button, and we'll go from there. So basically the way I looked at it now, so I end up changing that front area to area 1, so it's going to go, or area 2 is the first area it's going to go to. Okay, so now lowering its blades down to the height that's been set up, which was the 35 millimeters. And it's just clipping the grass a little bit. So I'll let it go for a second, then we might lower it back to 30 centimeters. Yeah, it's definitely not cutting enough. So while you're on the fly, there's little lines on the right hand side. They're just above the FPV sign there where the robot is on the screen there right now. You can click those little lines there, and that brings up your speed, your obstacle detection, and your cutting height, and you can drop that on the fly at any time. So I'm going to drop that to 30, and it will actually, you can see it's actually lowering down. Close that off, and now it's cutting at 30. That's definitely much nicer. All right, we'll let that mow. I'll get the other camera out and let it mow through, and we'll reconvene after it's finished mowing all 3 areas. Okay, guys, something we've just come across. We didn't realise till just now. I don't know if you heard that or not, but it's got dynamic load sensing. So when the Luba Mini is under heavy load, it's actually ramping the power up to its blades. And you might hear it here again. You hear that ramp up there? So it actually sensed how much extra load was in the blade, and it actually ramped up the power to the cutting system. I'm not sure Yuka Mini does that, but Luba Mini certainly does, and I'd highly assume Luba does. But yeah, that's a feature I was not actually aware of until I just heard it. Okay, so for a start, we didn't quite get there. So we just ran out of battery. So we started off at just better than 80%, and it hasn't quite finished the job, but I will give it some credit because it's been cutting significantly more grass than it should have, and certainly a lot more grass than what we ever cut with the Yuka Mini. And I'll just show you out here on this front lawn out here. Now, this lawn was the one that when it first came out, we decided to set it to 30 millimeters instead of 35. And as it turns out, I was quite correct. Once it got over here into the, over this side here where it's really deep and spongy, it was actually, the weight of the machine was dropping down. It was actually cutting around about 10 mil off on really dense grass. You can see spots, you know, all over the place where it's sort of starting to get right down into the woody stalks of the grass, and it's really, really dense and thick. So pretty much just about all over this entire whole side here. The dynamic load sensing was actually going off and ramping up the blades constantly, just over and over and over again. So it really was working it really, really hard, like much harder than it probably should have. So for it to have lasted 110 minutes on that charge when it started at just better than 80%, I think was actually pretty good indeed. You can see another spot over here where it was going around the border there. It just really did scalp the lawn out quite a bit. And then all the way along here, when I took the other little shot about showing you the dynamic load, you can see this entire edge here. It actually stalled the blades and scalped it right down every time it got near the edge. So that would have taken a lot of battery power out of it. It never got stuck, which is essentially one of the main reasons why you go to all-wheel drive. Even on this one over here, so by the time we got to this lawn over here, I actually raised it to 40 millimeters, and still, because of the weight of the machine, it's doing things like this, where it's taking probably just about 20 mil off the grass there at that point. But yeah, there's little scalping spots like that all over the place, where it really was cutting right down deep into the grass, so a lot deeper than the other machines were mowing down to. So all the way through, you can see it's just cut right down deep and scalped in many places. So realistically, the run time of that at 110 so minutes, I think was significantly, it was really quite good. So we're going to let that charge up there. I'm going to end that task to task through, so I'm going to do that right now. Just going to end the task, and that shows you what we actually did. We only got 94% complete. Like I said, ended up cutting it at 40 millimeters at the end. This lawn here was cut at 35, and it wasn't bad, but it's still, honestly, it was still scalping down in some places. So the weight of the machine really does have a significant impact. And the Luba Mini has a fixed blade system, and the Yuka Mini has a floating blade system, so it had a lot to do with that as well. Particularly spots like this just here, where it's just there's a little bit of a curved, right, a bit of a crown there, a peak, and you can see that the Luba Mini has cut straight through the peak there without any issues at all. So yeah, that's that. I'll let it charge for a bit, and then we'll just quickly do the backyard area and get the pathway out to the back. Same as the Yuka Mini, I should say, video, and then I'll do a wrap up after that. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to install an isolated zone or a separate zone out the back of my house. So to do that, we're going to go into the maps. We just press on the robot. We're going to go into manual, and I'm going just to manually control it just so I don't have to lift it. off the charging station, and I'm just going to remote control it out to my backyard. Okay, so I don't know whether you, if you watched the Yucca video that I took yesterday or previously, but half of this lawn was mowed yesterday by the Yucca Mini, and now I'm going to do the other half with the Luba Mini. So we're going to map this area, go into map, we're going to go into create an area. Yeah, we got that, read all that stuff before, thanks, and it's in position ready to go, so we're just going to go ready to go. We're going to manually map it, and
Start mapping a task area.
and away we go. Okay, hit save on that,
Task area mapping completed.
and that is now this area. And we're going to set up a schedule for it to run. I'll just turn that and actually put it inside the zone. And we're going to do a bit of a coverage area just to make sure that it covers really, really well and doesn't miss anything. This particular area has got a lot of tree cover, so it is a reasonably low GNSS signal area. And I do this with most mowers just to see how they actually mow in a single pass and to see how much grass they do miss when they do a single pass. Okay, let's just press play, and we're going to go continue because it's going to take us back into portrait mode. And I'm going to mow only area 4, which is this area here, which you can see on the map here, is now the area at the back. And we're going to confirm. We're going to go into settings, and I'm going to set the height to 30 millimeters because we really want to be able to tell how much it's where it's mowed and how much it's mowed. I'll keep it at 0.5, that's fine. Cutting angle will say optimal, and I'll just go to more just to see what else we might want to change. We'll keep it on zigzag, perimeter mowing on, obstacle detection off, no-go zones, and start progress right out. So that's good. It's going to take a total of 21 minutes apparently. See how we go.
Start working.
Okay, we'll let that start mowing, and I'll just check to make sure that the cutting height's right, and then I'll turn the camera off, and we'll come back after it's finished, and I'll just show you the results. And then we'll move on to mapping the pathway out to the front. Okay, so that's just finishing itself up now. It'll get to the last little track there and it will just stop because this is an isolated area. Task complete. So it mowed at 30 millimeters. It completed the area 35 square meters and it did it in a total of 30 minutes. So it was actually accurate to its timing this time. Oh no, sorry, I think it was 20 minutes last time, wasn't it? I've totally forgotten. I think it actually predicted 20 and it took 30. So the prediction times are definitely out when it comes to what it predicts and what it's actually going to take. But overall, it did a fantastic job, as always. So look, there really is next to nothing missed. There's one little strip, I'm not sure if you can see it, just through here, where it's just left about probably a 15 centimetre little strip of grass where it's just jumped over a little bit too much. But it will pick up that next time, no problems at all. But in all general terms, it's same as the Yucca Mini. It's just mowed the grass pretty well perfectly in a very low GNSS signal area. So if you've been watching my videos before, you'll see the early days of RTK robot mowers essentially just didn't work in this backyard, whereas now they're working with 100% coverage. Still definitely leaving edges, so like all the other robots, definitely still leaving edges. I'll overlay a little bit of video here just showing you the edge on that side over there where it's got as close as it possibly can. We'll go and have a quick look just to see how much grass was still left on this area. So you can still see that there's still about 10 to 12 centimetres of grass outside that edge just there. Like I say, I'll overlay some video here so you can see exactly how close the robot was actually travelling to the edge and how much grass it actually left. But that's, again, that is just something you're going to get with single-bladed machines, because the blade needs to be in the middle, and there has to be some safety tolerance on the outside of the blades. All right. So thank you for the crows again this morning. Fantastic. I love it when the crows make a heap of noise when we're trying to film. Okay. Now what I want to do is we're going to create that pathway to join these two zones together so you can see exactly how well this robot can actually travel from zone to zone. So we're going to click map. It's going to throw us into landscape mode. I'm then going to select create, and we're going to create a channel this time. Yep, we understand what a channel is. And I'm going to just get this robot in position where I would like to start the channel from. Which is about here. It's fine. Okay, and we will start the channel.
Start mapping a channel.
Okay, so now that we've remapped that a bit slower and in spots we wanted to go, I'll do the same thing again. We'll send it off and send it to area 4, confirm, start, next, and away he goes. Let's see how we go this time. It really is incredibly good at going down that slope. It's really slippery, that rock face there is really slippery. So that's an incredibly good job. And we mapped that pretty much dead center this time. It's a little bit to the left, so it's definitely out by about 5-10 centimeters, thereabouts to the left. Yeah, that is very close to where I mapped it. So it's holding very straight lines this time. So when you do have issues with getting these pathways between areas, if it is low GNSS signal areas, it really is just a matter of just trial and error. Try and just move your pathway over a little bit if the tolerance is a little bit out. But once it gets out of this space here now, we'll have no problems whatsoever. And we'll send it back, make sure it goes the same thing, go back the other way. Okay, we will pause that. We will end the task.
Task completed.
And then we will send it home.
Start recharging.
Okay, not a problem whatsoever. So once we got that pathway in the right spot, we had no issues whatsoever. Its accuracy, again, is about 10 centimeters when it's going through really narrow pathways and with low GNSS signal. So that's pretty damn good.
Okay, so Luba Mini from Momotion. How did it go? The dynamic load sensing that I really wasn't aware that it actually had was pretty fantastic. It used it quite a bit, but we were cutting quite low and the grass was quite dense. So it was definitely ramped up to a high speed quite often. So all in all, the performance of it was
sort of as expected for me, I suppose, because I was sort of had pretty high hopes for this guy going through. But look, being able to mow all the areas, so all those front areas, and mowing them sort of so low and actually in the really dense grass was a credit to it itself, just being able to mow that, because a lot of these smaller mowers just don't have the power to be able to mow that sort of grass. This is significantly more powerful than any of the other small mowers on the market. I can absolutely guarantee you that. Even where it was doing the tall edges and actually chopping right down to the grass, it was stalling this motor doing that. I'll throw an image up here for you to show the edges where it was actually cutting right into them. Now, well, it was cutting 20 mil off on a dense buffalo edge right down to the dirt basically. So that did stall the motor. That's perfectly okay. I'd expect it to do so. But it recovered every single time. Through all the testing we've done so far with this robot, it did not stop once by itself. It was only pure and simply that the blades, the cutting motor would stall when it bogged right down deep into the grass because of the tall edges. So in comparison to that with the with the Yuka Mini or any other two-wheel drive machine that I run on this property, I'm not able to run the robots with their one wheel on the concrete, one wheel on the edge of the grass because of that step up in the grass. So it's actually the only robot that's been able to do that, except for its big brother, Luba. The navigation system on it, same as Yuka Mini, same as Luba as well. Obviously, they're all the same navigation system, but it's pretty fantastic. Being able to mow down in the really, really low GNSS signal areas is fantastic, and its coverage is really, really good. On top of that, from this compared to the Yuka Mini, there was areas down the side between the garages that I can't put two-wheel drive machines down because the slope's just too great, whereas this was able to get down and actually do some of those areas that the two-wheel drive machine just couldn't get to full stop. Like all the Momotion products, the setup is really, really simple. I obviously didn't go through the full setup of this guy at the start of the video, but I did in the Yuka Mini video. So if you want to have a look at the actual setup process, getting your Wi-Fi connected and things like that and connected to the app, have a look at the Yuka Mini video. But once that's done, and that only takes sort of 5 minutes as itself, but I had the 3 areas at the front here mapped in about 10 minutes, and it's done and dusted. So you really can be up and running, even in multiple areas, in half an hour's time, maybe an hour's time by the time you put the antenna up and things like that. But realistically, you really can set these things up very, very quickly. Not quite the 18 minutes, I think, that Momotion actually sort of spruik in their marketing. And you can certainly do that if you use the pole and just spike it into the ground and then set it up a single area. You could certainly have this thing set up and done in 18 minutes, no problems whatsoever. But in theory, when you're in realistic terms, when you're out mapping your own property and you're going to mount the antenna properly and things like that, it's probably going to take you most of an hour, I'd say. The obstacle avoidance on it is still great. Even with the obstacle avoidance turned off, it still visually sees what's coming towards it, and it will slow down and bump into it gently. That's my preferred method for these guys. And we'll do some other testing videos on the actual obstacle avoidance systems of all the robots, so you can sort of see exactly how well they do stop and go around obstacles on your lawn. The coverage test at the back, once we got out the back there, it covered 99.99%. There was a little bit of missed grass of this compared to the Yuka Mini was in the same area, but I'll put a little bit more defence up on the Luba Mini because they do operate the same systems, obviously. But the side of the lawn that the Yuka Mini mowed has significantly less GNSS signal than the side that the Yuka mowed. So he probably had a bit of a short straw when it comes to exactly his positioning and how he can mow in that area. But still did a fantastic job. Really mowed the entire area, no problems whatsoever. And really, let's just call it that he didn't really miss anything. There was a tiny little bit of mist that would have got picked up on the next mow, so it really wasn't an issue. Travelling back through the narrow path and getting back out to the front and back really does just as good as all the other products again. So from what I can see at the moment, depending on exactly how you disrupt the GNSS signal when it's travelling from area to area, these guys are accurate to around about sort of 10 centimetres when they're going through pathways and turning corners. I've got another video coming very shortly on
both of the Yucca Mini and the Luba Mini going through the gauntlet at the front of the house there, through the really narrow section. It's got multiple turns along the way, and I won't reveal anything, but I'll release it in another video so you can watch that to see whether either of these robots was actually able to achieve that pathway. Look, I think that's sort of about it. I'll cover off on the robot itself. So a lot of people are concerned about grass buildup on the Lubas. With the Luba Mini, that's really not an issue at all. So this is exactly, I have not cleaned this robot at all since we've mowed all 4 lawns, and all 4 lawns were wet at the time. And you can see just how wet, how wet that grass actually is. In fact, it sticks to my hand like nothing else. But no, look, the design of Luba Mini is really such that it's not really going to build up with grass at all. It's very unlikely that you can have grass build-up issues with this product at all. It really is. Just with the way there's essentially no guard, no anything. There's just nothing around the base of this robot for the grass to build up on, other than, not sure if you can see in there, but you do have this very large rubber boot that has lots of spots for grass to build up, and it will build up in there, no doubt at all. But it won't affect it from working. It'll still work perfectly fine. Real quick run through on the specs on these guys. So these guys have got a 20 centimeter disc, and like I showed you a second ago, you've got 6 blades of this disc compared to 5 on the Luba Mini. On the Yucca Mini. It's a 20 centimeter blade system. Comes with a 4.5 amp hour battery in the 800 square meter model and a 6.1 amp hour battery in the 1500 meter model, which is what this one is. So what we've sort of discovered really was, the run time on the 6.1 amp hour battery, so the 1500 square meter model. The run time on that is going to be around about that 2 hour mark, and you just might get to 3 if it's not cutting too much at all. There have been some reports I've heard again on other reviews where they've actually had these guys running up to 4 hours. So if it's not cutting too much grass, then you possibly can get that sort of time. The charge time on this guy here, so last night it actually charged from 15% or 14% it got down to through to 80%, took almost exactly 2 hours, and then to get from 80 to 100% took an extra hour. So once it got into trickle charge after 80%, it took another hour to fully charge. So 3 hours to fully charge, 2 hours to charge from 15 to 80% before it will go back out again. And like we sort of showed yesterday, that 80% down to 15%, we mowed quite low through really thick. We loaded it up quite heavily, and we got 110 minutes out of that, which is pretty good. So realistically, that 80 to 15% run time is still going to be that 2 hours and 2.5 hours. So I truly do believe people who sort of say that they have seen these things run for 4 hours, because at 100% charge and not cutting too much, I think it will definitely run for that long. The 4G module is included inside this robot, so you do get the 4G system inside Luba Mini, and it comes with 1 month of data, and then you have to renew that on your data plan. In Australia, 1 year's worth of data is, I think it's around $86, I think it was, in that ballpark. So you just get on the app and renew it, and so you can still see it. What I didn't cover in any of the videos was the first-person viewer, so FPV. You can actually look through the cameras on these guys when they're connected to Wi-Fi. You can connect and actually stream that actual vision straight through to your phone. You can do that when you're away from the house, but you can only do it when the robot's working. You can't actually remote control the robot around or anything like that when you're away from the house. You can only remote control them with your Bluetooth connected to the robot. But that FPV, the vision's actually really quite good, so you really can use that quite to your advantage. But like I said, it's only streamed if it's connected to Wi-Fi. If it's 4G connected, it will actually just send you a still image. I think it's about every 10 seconds you get a new still image, just to reduce that data going through the 4G system. So you still can view through FPV when you're away from the house, and it's only got 4G, no Wi-Fi. It's just that you only get updated still images over and over and over again. So I think that's it for the Luba Mini, guys. I honestly think that's going to be a pretty popular little machine. I can't really fault it too much at this point in time. Anyone who's got sloped areas, small areas that are sloped, or just undulated areas where two-wheel drive machines are likely to have issues, or even just like my lawns where they've got the grass steps up from the concrete up onto the grass. Having that four-wheel drive system and the extra power of this to be able to maintain that and for the robot to be able to get there and not get stuck is pretty fantastic. I think there's not really any negatives. I mean, you can probably put one negative down to the fact that it still is skid steer, so it drags those front wheels across. So in really, areas where the ground's really soft and brittle and the grass doesn't grow very much, well then this can damage the grass when it turns. Although I'll put some image up here, so I took some image earlier of it turning over the top of some basic dirt, which is wet dirt as well. And you can see that it actually didn't really leave any marks whatsoever. So it can tear grass when it's turning, but only in very few situations, and the grass needs to be really weak for that to happen. But I think that's about the only negative that has. Other than that, I think Luba Mini is pretty much all positives. I'll wrap it up, guys. As always, anyone in Australia who wants help, assistance in choosing mowers, or any questions about this mower or any other mower on the market, you can always email us at sales@robotlawnmowers.com.au. You can find a bunch of information on our website at www.robotlawnmowers.com.au. You check out our socials, Facebook, Instagram and TikTok. Other than that, guys, thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one.